Thank you so much. I'm happy to join you today. Thank you for the kind invitation to share a bit with you in my area of research and practice. Um, so today I'm going to give you some sort of background information and then share with you some of the things that can help student veterans be most successful in their education. And these are things that cross undergraduate and graduate education. So hopefully there's a few tips and tricks that you can take away and a little bit of information that will help you be more informed as you work with student veterans on your campus. Okay, let's see how we do this. So just to give you a little background about me, in addition to my bio, I've been working in this area of studying student veterans for academically about 10 years, but really have been working with student veterans for about 15 years. I started as a career advisor working with MBA students at a large R1 institution in their top MBA program, and then transitioned into directing a student veteran services office on that same campus, and then have worked for veteran service organizations and other nonprofits serving veterans. So I come at this work from the lens of a practitioner, but also during that time got my PhD in educational human resource development and specializing in career development and looking at military veterans transitioning. So I'm really interested in kind of what makes a most successful environment for veterans, listening to them talk about their experiences, and then using the research to underpin that, and then be able to take that out and share that information broadly with both the academic community, but also the employment community. I do use a phenomenological lens, so very heavily invested in qualitative research. And for me, that just works well because of where my interests lie. My job, as I see it, is to listen, pay attention, understand veterans' needs, and then sort of be their spokesperson, be able to share what's important to them, and use my voice and research that's out there to make an impact with that information. And I'm hoping that what folks take away from hearing me, reading my work, is really a way of getting beyond just saying thank you for your service. Veterans, of course, appreciate hearing that, but many times aren't really sure what to do with that information. To them, they find it more impactful when someone is able to help them from a perspective of being knowledgeable about their needs and invested in their success and helping them continue to achieve their goals. So again, I'm hoping that you'll take away a few bits of information today that will help you continue to do better as you serve veterans on your campus in their educational and career pursuits. You'll notice throughout my presentation that there are pictures of military veterans. I always include pictures of my friends because for me, it helps keep me reminded of why I do this work, why I'm in this field every day. And it also, I think, helps to bring the things that I talk about to life. When I show you pictures of my friends and their work and the things that they've experienced, I think it helps make this information more contextualized and more meaningful. So I hope you enjoy the photos. They all have been willing to share with me in hopes that seeing them in their work, in their lives, in their success will help continue to motivate you to help them. So this information and helping veterans achieve in their academic pursuits is important for a number of reasons. To me, A couple of those are, one, they've worked really hard on the front end to achieve success in their military careers and to earn the benefits that they have with the GI Bill. And so when they are ready to go to school, they're intentional about that. And so it's important for us to help them be good stewards of the benefits that they've earned. And that's money that comes from the government. So we want to help them be good stewards of that and get the most out of their academic experience. But moreover, their academic success really has broad implications for not just them personally, but for us and the employment landscape broadly. And so you'll hear me talk about three different things: academic success, academic persistence, and academic completion. And those are three different ways of looking at and understanding the veterans' experience in higher education. But it's important that we look at this and not just, for me, I always start from that place of, it just feels good to do the right thing. But there are a number of factors out there that will help us to be more successful broadly, economically, socially, and fiscally in the United States employment landscape. And we continue to see those impacts every month when we look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics data on veterans employment. And a good amount of that comes from veterans leaving higher education and moving on to pursue careers in the civilian sector. So to start with, we need to have a basic understanding of kind of what we're talking about and why this is important. Student veterans have been engaged in higher education with increasing numbers. Really, we started to see it in about 06, 07. With the ramp up of the wars in the Middle East and increasing numbers of military being deployed, we started to then see a good number of folks returning and deciding to attend higher education following their military experience. We had folks returning, having enlisted, and then coming back to school post 9/11. We had some folks who had already been in the military, either enlisted or as officers, and then coming back and coming to higher education about that same time. We also began to see more of the military sending service members to college to get different types of education, both undergraduate and graduate, and so that they could go back, continue in their military service, and continue to have an impact through their work. So we've seen a lot of different kinds of military and veteran students come through higher education since then. And I think that's really changed the things that we need to know about serving them. It's really shaped how we need to help support them in different situations. So there isn't necessarily a one-size-fits-all way to support veterans and military students in higher education. Well, we've certainly seen those numbers grow, and we'll continue to see those numbers, probably not at the levels that we saw for a few years, but we will certainly continue to see them as they have sort of an open-ended opportunity to use those benefits that they earned. And the benefits, thanks to some tremendous advocacy and congressional action, benefits are really better than they've ever been for military and veterans to attend higher education. Most of the early work in research and practice was on that social or psychosocial transition and retention, looking at student veterans really using a sort of a crisis management model and deficit model. And so what we've really tried to do in the last several years is flip that narrative to use more of an empowerment framework, talk about what the challenges are from a realistic perspective, and then talk about what are the things that we need to do to mitigate those challenges. What kinds of things can we do on campus based on services that we already offer? So I think initially there was a great deal of focus on student veterans in crisis. We need to create support services and resources for them. Where's that money going to come from, and what does that look like? Now we're taking a little different approach, and I think it works better for institutions overall in terms of making use of resources that are already available, layering those resources with some additional education and knowledge building about working with the population, and then building into a great deal of that some research and being able to not just talk about anecdotally we've seen progress in how we're serving student veterans, but we've seen some good data behind what we're doing to continue to support what we're doing on campus. And so that's always a good opportunity then to partner both on the academic side and then the student affairs side, and work together to look at that data and find out how we continue to improve in the resources that we offer and how we offer them. Student Veterans of America has done some great research in the last several years. And what they've found is that student veterans are doing very well in higher education. I think early on, we had some not great data that made it look as though student veterans were really failing. And there was a lot of worry about that. Some newer research and some better methods for analyzing the data that we have really shows that our student veterans are doing very well. But we continue to focus on what are the things that are helping them do well, and how do we continue to grow those services and provide the support that they need. And really, we're talking about a combination of academic and sort of the social, psychosocial support, and particularly career development support. So a little bit of information from that data, that's SVA Invest report. 23% of veteran women are completing degrees, and that is a very good response, given that women often face a number of challenges that our men do not when they are returning to higher education. Because we know societally, women tend to bear the weight for childcare, often are the ones working extra to take care of the household. Women veterans, like many of our women students, have less time for study and focus on their academics. So they've been more challenged in completing their education, but are still doing fairly well. 81% of full active duty status folks are completing their degrees. And again, that's very good news, because they are able to then take that education back into the military and apply the things that they've learned with us in higher education and continue to grow the strength, not just in functional capability, but really that different ways of looking at things capability. They are better able to analyze and problem solve. They are also more creative in their thinking, and often better able to serve as mentors and guides for others. So good stuff when they're taking that education back to active duty. 80% of our student veterans are over age 25. And when we look at our traditional student population, our veterans are starting their higher education at an age when most of our traditional undergraduate students are moving on. Our student veterans are much more in line with the age of our adult learners and graduate students. So often it's easy to sort of lump them in with those student groups in terms of services and resources. And there are some of those things that they are going to need, but particularly if we're looking at undergraduate student veterans, many times their needs are going to be very different from traditional 25-year-old adult learners. And so that's something to keep in mind. 72% have achieved overall academic success. Now, remember when I talked about those definitions at the beginning, academic success doesn't necessarily mean graduating or completing their education. It means that they've continued to pursue their education. So we're seeing student veterans continue to make progress towards their degree. Sometimes that is slower. They may make more spotty progress, so they may sometimes have to take time away. But they continue to push forward in their academic success. And I think for me, what I've seen is that's a testament to not only supportive service on campus, but their tenacity and their willingness to work hard to achieve their goals. And so that 72% is a very good number when we look at that student pursuit of education. 64% of our student veterans completed their education at public institutions. So much like the University of Michigan, where they're finding great value for the education that they receive. They don't feel like they need to go to an Ivy League or a private institution. They're recognizing that they're getting what they need from top public institutions. And while they don't have to worry necessarily so much about cost of the education, they're finding the value in the experience. And I think for those who work at public institutions, that's a really good thing for us to know, that they are choosing our institutions purposefully, whether it's because it's where they're from or where they want to go to school, where they've always dreamed about, where they finally have the opportunity. They are choosing public institutions more often than not. And in the year when the data was collected and reported, we had a large number achieving post-secondary certificates and degrees. And when we talk about higher education, that could be any kind of certificate or degree that they've achieved from a higher education institution. So some of that comes from community college, some of that traditional 4-year education, some from career or technical schools. But what we're seeing is student veterans are doing very well in achieving their academic goals in higher education. And I think that bodes well for all of us. Again, looking forward and projecting that into economic impacts that they're going to be able to have, not just in lower wage jobs, but really looking at how veterans are going to be able to move on and fill key leadership positions in companies and organizations as we see generational shift. So they're bringing knowledge and service, capability, willingness to work hard, all of those great qualities into the employment workspace. So I want to talk a little bit about some different notions about education and work that you may see with student veterans, both on campus and in your classroom. They really sometimes see things differently than traditional undergrads. And I think we'll see this both for undergraduate and graduate student veterans. They really have a different mindset than our traditional students. So we want to talk about this idea of why they're well positioned for success. They come in with a great deal of maturity. They come from working in diverse environments, both within their own workforce in the military, but also intersecting with troops and doing training and work with folks from other countries. And so what we see is a greater openness to diversity, working cross-culturally, finding ways to communicate when sometimes it would seem like it's not working effectively. They also are very I think, creative and have a great deal of initiative when it comes to problem solving and finding ways of getting things done. They tend to have a great deal of respect for others, are able to listen well, follow directions, but also able to ask questions when they are prompted and when they are willing to do so. Going to college for student veterans means going to get education. We've seen time and again with traditional students, non-military students, for them going to college sometimes is parallel to meaning going to have an experience, going to meet people, going to get involved, all kinds of different things. But for our veterans, going to college really means going to get education. They have already had a great deal of experience in life. And so for them, this idea of going to college is a very intentional choice. They are making a decision to, even if they don't know exactly what they want to do yet, they're making a decision to go to school and pursue something new, and recognizing the value of education and the opportunity that will come from obtaining that education. I think particularly when we talk about graduate students, we're really looking at somebody who has already been through undergrad, has a specific interest in something, and knows that, hey, there's a lot of opportunity for me if I keep pursuing this. I can learn to think some different ways. I can learn to do things differently. And so we're seeing more and more of them decide to go forward from undergraduate to graduate school and pursue everything from studying English literature and poetry to studying physics and chemistry. So we've got a wide swath of interests, and behind that, a lot of intentionality about what they want from going to college and what they are going to achieve and the goals that they set for themselves. Higher education means a lot of different things. Because the GI Bill is so expansive now, literally any kind of program that they are interested in, they can probably use the GI Bill for. So we're talking about, again, traditional four-year higher education. We're talking about community college, and which most of them take on at some point. We're talking about certificate programs in addition to degrees. We're talking about on-the-job training and other career and technical programs. So as I am career coaching veterans and they're talking about, I want to go to school, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. And I'm like, well, whether you want to go to motorcycle repair school or get a bachelor's degree in biology and go on to pursue a medical degree, there's opportunity there for you to use your GI Bill and to pursue education at a variety of different institutions. And so it really has opened up their opportunities for what they want to do. They don't need to be constrained by attending one kind of school. They aren't constrained by having a really limited time to use that. And they don't have to be constrained in terms of what they can imagine when it comes to higher education. And so I think, to me, that's been a very, very good change in the last several years, and means that we are going to have a much more educated and much more prepared veteran population as they continue to move through and pursue higher education. Education for our veterans has happened everywhere. So they are not necessarily couched in this idea that education only happens in the classroom. They are geared towards looking at anything as an educational opportunity. Whether that's strictly talking about in-class activities, lab activities. It could mean something related to being involved with a board If your department has an advisory board, they may be involved with something with that, but they really are geared towards looking at everything as an opportunity to learn and grow. And I think that's another strength that comes with this population. They are able to connect experiences that they're having outside the classroom with things that happen inside the classroom and vice versa, taking those lessons from inside the classroom and taking them out into their life and looking for opportunities to apply them. Again, with graduate students, that's particularly relevant. Because we're looking to tie those kind of more academic-y and real world experiences to theory, and being able to understand how those things are underpinned by theory and driven by theory, and helping them start to make those connections in the ways that they grow and analyze what they know and how they're learning to build their mindsets in their education. Needs for veterans are broad and diverse, and they are not often aware of their needs unless they're sort of taught to sit down and think about what they need and finding those resources. Sometimes educating our student veterans means educating them about resources and services, and they may not know what they don't know, and they may not know what they don't know to ask questions about. So part of what we need to do is take a step back and think, what might be helpful for this student, and how do I connect them to the services and resources that they need? And so that puts some onus on us from the faculty side. But again, working with campus partners and institutional resources to help get them the support that they need so they can continue to do good things in and outside the classroom in terms of their development. And again, work means a variety of different things. Often work and play sort of go hand in hand. Our veterans are able to work collectively with others so well that sometimes they aren't thinking specifically that this is a classroom focused thing or this is a lab focused thing. They see those boundaries of work and getting along with others and group assignments and things all really mesh together. And again, when we talk about working with those who are different and diverse populations, our veterans really hit the mark when it comes to finding ways to get the job done with whoever they're working with. And so part of what we can do is learn from that and use those lessons to help our traditional students with learning about what does work mean? What does it mean to pay attention to the details, to get the things done that need to get done on time, to be accountable to others, and to produce a high quality work product for their class, either for projects or for grades or for other things that they're involved with. But work often has a broad meaning for our veterans. And sometimes I think that's very helpful for us to make use of in our classrooms. So I want to touch on some of the things that I think people tend to think about first when we think about veterans. There are a lot of perceptions out there, a lot of stereotypes about veterans. I think the media has done an effective job with helping us to see veterans through a couple of big bucket categories. And it's important for us to remember that our veteran population, our military population is highly diverse and is growing more so all the time, thanks to a number of barriers being lifted. So what we see is a population that is much more, increasingly much more reflective of our society, and much less I think, one lens that we may have seen 20 or 30 years ago. And that's a good thing, because when we look around our classrooms, it's important for us to recognize that if we don't know, any one of those students may be a veteran. If they went into the military and served for a few years and then come out and are going to school, they may not be that different in some ways from the outside from some of our traditional students. So it's important that we keep this idea about our perceptions of veterans open. You know, a lot of times when I'm talking with folks about, you know, what to you, when I say veteran, what to you is the first thing that you think of? Many times those perceptions and stereotypes are reflective of either some of the stereotypes of veterans being either sort of damaged and broken, or strong heroes who saved the day. Maybe they're kind of the scary people that you encounter now and then. So it's important to break down those stereotypes and understand that our veterans are people. They are diverse. They've had a different kind of work experience than maybe you or I, but they have a great deal to offer in terms of capability. They are motivated and interested in learning and growing their knowledge and capabilities. And to me, I found they're just a lot of fun. They are very interesting, fun, kind, caring people. You know, I will say that that idea that not all veterans are the same is just really increasingly true. And so hopefully you have a chance to take time and get to know the student veterans that you're interacting with, especially at the graduate level, when they've already been through undergraduate and they've got a little bit of that confidence under their belt. And now they really want to dive into their area of study. They still bring that military background with them, and it still is a big part of who they are, but they're shifting focus, and it's a great time to talk about how they can mesh those different worlds and different personalities together as they continue to evolve on the civilian side of life. And I think for them, that's very exciting. Sometimes they don't really know how to do it, but they are really happy, always happy to have a guide and confidant that is willing to help them in that process. Some of our veterans do have service-connected and acquired disabilities, and we have to recognize that as part of their experience. Those may be either external or internal. We're talking about either physical disabilities, mental health challenges, and sometimes emotional health challenges. There are a number of resources available to them through military and veterans organizations, but we want to also be able to recognize and help them with that on the campus and make sure that they get connected where they need to be. Additionally, they may have some unknown disabilities. They may have had learning difficulties or disabilities growing up that may not have been documented or addressed. So they may be experiencing some challenge that way. So again, having the ability to connect them with resources is going to be important. Academic leveling, many times our veterans are coming in and they have the aptitude for doing the work, but they may not have taken the right courses to get them set up to come into higher education. And as they want to pursue a graduate program, they may not have been aware what they needed to do to get set up to prepare for graduate programs either. So sometimes we have to do some work getting them caught up to where they need to be academically so they can then go on and pursue the studies of their interest. They also may need help with career decision making, just like our traditional students. Sometimes they aren't aware of all the options that are out there because they just haven't been out in the employment marketplace. So part of what we may be doing is helping them understand the range of options and helping them plug into resources to research and explore some of those options. Certainly, there's a certain amount of stress and anxiety that comes either from their academic pursuits or from their personal lives. And we see all of our students going through stress and anxiety while they're in education. And so again, connecting them with the resources available on campus can be really helpful to them. Many of them come with families. They have spouses or partners, they have children. So many times what they're dealing with is not just their own responsibilities for education, but they may also be working with spouses who are working or pursuing education, or kids who are in school. So those family responsibilities can take some of their time and may sometimes shift some of their focus away from their education. And so what we need to do is help them to navigate that. And then money management and financial literacy. I think one of the things that we've seen broadly is helping our veterans be good stewards of their money, either that they have saved or that they continue to work and earn, or financial aid money is important so that they are able to do the things they want and need to do, but also that they have the resources available to accomplish the things that they need to accomplish for their education. Let's see, there we go. So when we talk about what they need from faculty, I think this is some of the best stuff that it's a lot, but hopefully stuff that you can take away, some tidbits that will help you now that you know a little bit more about where they're coming from. In the past, we talked a lot about our student veterans needing a variety of course formats, and many of them being interested in doing more online courses, particularly if they were continuing to work to support a family. Obviously, things have changed a lot in the last couple of years. And so as we see some classes continue to be offered online, you may find that offering a section or two of online course availability is going to be most helpful for student veterans. With that, there are some of our student veterans who want to be in class and be face-to-face with their faculty. They enjoy that connection and that interaction with their faculty. Sometimes they have to be encouraged to interact with faculty. They may still feel that power distance from the military, where they were taught that they should not ask questions, they should not seek out advice and things from senior leaders. And so what we need to do is both humanize our role as faculty and really work to be as authentic as we can be with those student veterans, but also letting them know sometimes repeatedly that it's okay to ask questions, that they should ask for assistance, they should ask for help, and that we are there to help and support them. In addition, interaction with other students. Sometimes our student veterans love that opportunity, when doing group projects and things, to get to know the traditional students that are around. Sometimes they find that challenging, though, that some traditional students ask questions or exhibit behaviors that student veterans just find that they've sort of grown past in their age and experience. And so sometimes interacting with them can be a challenge. What we can do is help all of our students understand that we're all individuals coming from different places and different experiences, and that we need to seek value in those experiences. And encourage them to have dialogue. Again, if there's challenge, if there's conflict, to help them to troubleshoot that from a productive standpoint, and learn that, hey, there's some things you can actually learn from some of these traditional age students who have been in the civilian world, whether that's the best place to get groceries, or how to solve some technology problems, or how to get the best tickets for a football game. There's a lot that they can learn from our traditional students. So helping them to make those bridges in their personal and academic lives is important. Certainly gaining academic skills is valuable. And so we want to talk to them about effective note-taking, ways that they can do test review. So going back through their notes, listening to lectures if faculty record them, and some effective strategies like that. Additionally, working with other folks in their class, so partnering up with others for sharing notes and reviewing them to both build their knowledge in how to be a good student, but also how to take advantage of resources on campus to help grow their academic skills. And so part of that is understanding the academic and support services. And hopefully you all are knowledgeable about the services that are available there on campus. If you're not, I encourage you to spend some time reaching out. If you have a faculty resource center that can educate you on some of those things, or just talking to your colleagues across the aisle in student affairs, where a lot of that happens. If you have a writing center, a math center, any of those kind of tutoring resources, it's also really helpful to have connections with those and be able to make direct referrals. And then connections to industry. Again, going back to that idea of if your department has an advisory council with people who work out in industry, getting your student veterans plugged in there is really important. They are going to be much more effective at finding opportunities and making use of learning opportunities when they can contextualize their knowledge from the classroom to industry. And it will also help them in terms of career development when they are able to network effectively with partners in industry. So if you can, either through your career center or through things that you do in your department, help them facilitate those connections and make use of either presentations or meetings, regular meetings with industry partners, research opportunities with partners, anything like that, student veterans will get a lot out of that, and I think will be effective in the connections that they make and what they do with those. And then the top two things that I always push for faculty to continue to do with our student veterans: encouragement and listening. I don't expect anyone to have all the answers. There are still things that come across my email that I say, gosh, I really am not sure about that. Let me check with some of the people that I know and get you some information to get started, and then loop back with you and help you build a plan. It's, I've spent years working with this population. I'm pretty well accepted in the military and veteran community, from the bottom levels all the way up to top. But it takes time to build that knowledge, and with it, that credibility. So start small, start easy, and build that trust with them, and then facilitate encouraging them by helping them to find resources and providing them knowledge and information to help them be successful. So just some of the services that you may have on your campus that could be supportive, and these are pretty standard. A veteran support office, disability or accessibility services, certainly career services is important. Counseling services for those crisis management situations, academic success services, and financial aid, always important to help them with their managing their educational benefits. And then tutoring and national testing services. They have resources with their GI Bill to pay for some of those things, so they are not paying out of pocket. And especially if we are encouraging student veterans to go on to graduate school, either master's or doctoral level, those testing services are going to be really important for them. So helping them get connected with the testing services and then working with their veteran support services to find out how to use their resources is really important. Those are that's the big list, the kind of the easy ones. You may have some more specialized resources on your campus. And those are things that you can maybe spend some time learning about so that you can, again, be more effective at making those referrals along the way. Again, don't recreate the wheel. Don't feel like you have to know everything, but know who your partners are on campus who can help you in supporting the veterans that you have in your classes. So I've included just a little bit of a reference list here. This is by no means comprehensive. Does include a number of pieces from me and my research partner. And we have had a couple of pieces come out in this last year or two. Even with the pandemic, we've continued to write and publish. But our work crosses higher education and the employment sector. So ideally, there will be something in there for everyone. If you would like a longer list or direction to some specific pieces, I'm also happy to make that information available to you, either in reference form or in paper form. So I'm going to take some questions now. I feel like that was a lot of information really fast coming at you. But I'm going to take some questions, so feel free to post them in the chat and I will look through. And we've got one. Paul has got a really good question here. Do you know who is most likely to notice an unknown disability? Is it often a self-awareness, or is it faculty staff member notices, initiates the process? We are often the ones who notice those unknown disabilities. I have a fledgling theory that is on my research agenda that we may have seen a number of folks go into the military because they felt like they didn't do well in high school. And so they never made plans to go to college. They said, I'll go into the military. And once there, they found that they actually had a great deal of capability and got the confidence and the experience to say, I want to go to college, but also then return to the education environment to find themselves struggling. And so if we see somebody who has the drive, the initiative, and the passion for pursuing an education, but seems to be struggling with the academic process, what we can do is have some conversation with them about their past academic experience, and then work with our partners in accessibility resources to get them in, do some testing and find out if they do have an unknown disability, and then get them started on the path with receiving services. I can't think of many things in my academic life that make me more sad than seeing somebody who really wants to be there and has high hopes and high drive, but is struggling academically and needs help and isn't aware of it. So we are often that first line of defense in the classroom to see that somebody has a problem with either with their writing skills, with their comprehension, their reading, their ability to make sense of theoretical information. So take some time and get connected with the accessibility services on your campus and find out what's the best way to do a referral, and hopefully keep that information near you. And if you come across a student veteran, and particularly in need, you can make that referral and get them help quickly so that they can continue their academic pursuits and be successful in the way that they want. Some other questions that I've received previously from folks is, how do I even start? Like, this is just a lot of stuff, and where do I start? What I recommend is start with one office, one support service. Usually start with your veteran service office because they're usually plugged into everything. And if nothing else, you can always go to them for recommendations on how do I best help this student. In my time in being a director of a veteran service office, a lot of what I did was helping faculty to find out what the best way was to assist a student who needed help. They are often plugged into every office on campus. They are often also plugged into many of the resources available in the broader community and connections at the VA, where they can also help students get connected and get referrals to services. So if nothing else, start there. Start with your veteran service office, and they will be ones who can help you connect with other services on campus in your community. Really, if you starting from that position of wanting to help is the best thing. And I think if you head into working with student veterans with that intentionality, you're going to do well. There is a great deal of willingness on their side to receive help. They sometimes are not able to ask for it effectively. They just aren't used to that. So a lot of times it's going to be you initiating that and saying, hey, I noticed something and I think I know somebody who could help you. What I've found is once you start bridging that gap, and it's really a gap in different ways of doing things. Once you start bridging that gap with student veterans, and if you become identified as one of those good faculty members who really cares about them, your email will be not overflowing, but you will become a very good contact. Veterans talk to other veterans and they trust other veterans more than anybody else. And so if somebody finds that you are a good resource, that you care, and that you're willing to go a little extra distance for them, that word is going to spread, and you will be known as a trusted resource. And that's something I think, to me, that if nothing else, I value my education and everything I've done, but being a trusted resource for this population, to me, is really important. So if you have other questions, I'm happy to take them, or happy to serve as a resource. And if you'd like to email me, but otherwise, I appreciate your time, and I hope you found some value in learning about our student veterans in higher education.
Thank you so much, Dr. Minnis. We will make your contact information available to everyone, and of course the recording as well. We thank you for your time. We thank everyone for coming to this event. And I know we have another event starting soon, so we will see you there. Thank you so much, everyone.